Major support provided by Chevron, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Edison International, Valley Strong Credit Union, California Resources Corporation, Panama Buena Vista Union School District, Bakersfield City School District, and the Kern High School District, with additional production assistance provided by these supporters of education in Kern County and throughout the state of California.
Welcome. We are here today at the outlets at Tejon. If you haven't been out here yet for the shopping experience, I absolutely recommend it. It definitely opens things up. And today we're going to explore the outlets with Becca Bland, Marketing Director. Becca, thanks so much for having us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Becca, tell us a little bit about the story of the outlets at Tejon, as far as its origin, its role that it plays, and how it sets itself apart as far as other shopping experiences.
Right, so we say the outlets at Tejon is a huge lifestyle center. It's not just clothes and shoes. We have home goods, we have athletic wear, we have art. So we say it's more lifestyle. We are hugely a part of our community, especially being Bakersfield. We give a lot to charities. We really want to be involved in the community, and we don't just want to be a shopping center on the I-5. We want to be a part of people's lives.
And it's fairly new to the scene, you know, compared to a lot of other retail opportunities in the Kern County area. Tell us a little bit about how the outlets have evolved over the years.
Right, so we opened up about 7 years ago. Some stores have come and gone, and as we're listening to people, we get to hear what they want to see. So this is continually evolving by adding different centers, different stores, and most importantly, events that people want to be a part of, whether it be Cinema Under the Stars or Art and Art event. So we really try to listen to our customer base.
And what really makes it a very unique experience is the fact that you have shoppers and visitors from throughout California based off of the nature of its location. So tell us a little bit about how the positioning of the outlets at Tejon is very different from other shopping experiences that some of our friends in Bakersfield might be used to.
Right, so you said throughout California, but it's not just California. We see people throughout the world. We are so close to LAX, so we have a lot of buses, tour buses going through. So we see people from all around the world. And we get to just hear everyone's stories and be a part of their journey as they purchase things here at the outlets.
And that makes it very unique as far as how people arrive. One of the metrics that I think is very interesting that you use to consider the amount of people that come through is shoppers per car. Now, some of our viewers watching through their classroom experiences might be starting to explore rates, a comparison of two different values. So when we talk about a unit rate such as shoppers per car, tell us a little bit about the use of that rate as far as making decisions.
So we are all about growth. We want to make sure we are providing a great product for our customers, and how we know is, hey, are people coming? So one of those rates is, like we said, we count the cars that come to the outlets. It's a little hard to count people without having cameras everywhere. That can be really expensive. So we have a few cameras that count the cars. And what we do is about an average, we've noticed about 3 people per car. So we count cars 7 days a week, and the average that we come up is 3 per car.
Having that information, knowing how many cars come in, and then figuring out how many people per car, that's going to give you some information, and we can kind of demonstrate this here about how many people are visiting the outlets.
Absolutely.
So we can take a look at, you know, the business year is broken down into quarters. So quarter 1 would be January through March. Mm-hmm. So we know that, for example, in January there were 50,899 cars that came through. Mm-hmm. And we know that there were 25,513 in February and 60,774 in March. So for the total of those 3 months, that's 137,186
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah,
so we
absolutely.
have 137,000.
137,186.
So that's quarter 1.
And per car, we're averaging about 3 shoppers per car.
Correct.
So to find out how many shoppers, and this is still a very broad, just kind of general estimate, but it's a good indication, you would multiply the total number of cars by 3.
Correct. And that's how we get our total shoppers for Q1.
And so, you obviously can use a calculator for this. I know some students are still working through a standard algorithm or area model, but that comes out to 411,558. So what that means is that you are estimating that just over 400,000 people are coming through to make purchases and shop and explore the outlets at Tejon.
Right, and what's also great about this number is we compare each quarter. Hey, what quarter is doing better, what's not doing better? And we can say, is it holidays? Is it the weather? What can we do different to continue to get these numbers?
And it's really interesting with those numbers because that's not only going to inform how many people are coming through, but the amount of business that stores might be doing based off of how much space they may have in, within their doors. We're back here at the outlets at Tejon with Becca Bland, marketing director, and we've shifted positions over here. This is a really wonderful space. Tell us a little bit about this part of the outlets.
So what's really interesting about positioning at the outlets is the prime spots everybody wants, but that means you got to pay a little bit more. So for instance, this is a very, very popular spot because of the fountain. It's great, it's easy next to the parking. So that's how we determine, hey, if you want this spot, you have to pay a little bit extra, but that will make it up in sales per square foot.
When planning out a layout like this, and you have features like a fountain with benches, it makes sense because there's an area to come and relax. It's also a landmark where people can agree to meet if they're in different parts. And while there are so many more people passing through this area, I can imagine that some of the higher name brands would be more interested in positioning in this area with their storefronts.
Right, because if you're in a great spot, that means more sales, which everybody wants. That's why we're here.
Now, some of the storefronts here, we measure how much space they cover by square footage. Now, for some students that may be unfamiliar with that term, describe what square footage means and how it applies to retail.
Right, so square footage is important because that is how much they pay per month to be here. What's really important about square footage is justified in the positioning, but what's also important is how to determine that number, how much people pay per month is, hey, what are the sales per square foot for the whole center? Is that going to justify me being here?
Certain types of businesses will need greater square footage, especially if it involves customers walking around, exploring goods. Others maybe not so much, where they know what they want and they can step up to a counter. So generally, what do you notice as far as the types of businesses that have larger square footage versus those that don't potentially need as much?
Right, so the larger square footage are the things that have something for the whole family. We have Nike, they're pretty big. H&M has something for the whole family. Something a little smaller, maybe some more boutique, Kate Spade or Michael Kors, a little bit smaller. Not as much for the whole family, but pretty segmented.
And one of the metrics you use to determine how much value that these businesses and these stores are pulling in is sales per square footage. So tell us a little bit about that and how that measures out.
So we always want our sales per square foot to continue to grow. That's why we do all these metrics. Hey, let's compare last year versus this year or the year before. So how we figure that out is we ask for everyone's sales every single month, and we calculate, hey, what is the sales per square foot? So
generally what that means is, so let's take the month of January, for example.
Yeah,
right?
Let's do January.
So in January, all of the combined revenue, all the combined income was about $1.5 million in sales. So $1,500,000. And in total, the leasable square footage, the amount of square feet available was 320,421, and that includes space that has not necessarily been leased yet. So that could be vacant spaces as well. So how do we use that information, just very generally speaking, to figure out sales per square foot?
This one's super easy. You just need the two numbers, the how much sales and how much square feet, and you just divide them.
So it's a straight up division problem.
Yep.
That's calculator friendly with values that large. And so that comes out to about $4.68. So just looking at that measure, what does that mean? How do we interpret that information?
So the higher the dollar amount, the more people are willing to pay. So if you have something, hey, maybe you only did $2 a square foot, that's not looking very good. We need to figure out how can we change that.
So, when we look at more and more, we can see how there are some really interesting metrics, but they're all very accessible to students who might be exploring rates and division and multiplication and how they relate to each other in making some of these decisions.
Absolutely.
So when we come back later on, what we're going to do is we're going to tie everything together. We're going to tie sales in per vehicle and all the shoppers coming through to start comparing month to month, year to year, and get a fuller picture of who's coming and what they bring. We're back here with Becca Blend, Marketing Director at the Outlets at Home, and right now we're here at the Bird Dog Arts, a really unique space, in the lens of everything else here at the Outlets. Tell us a little bit about where we are right now.
So from what we know, this is the first of its kind in California. There's 83 artists that are represented in this space. It's 11,000 square feet. So what that means is every artist represented here is from California. Now that's all kinds of mediums, whether it's jewelry, painting, we have sculptures, there's everything represented in this space, and it's fairly new. It opened in June of this year.
What really makes it unique is the transitive nature of the people who usually come through to the outlets, but now you're bringing in artists and a space to appreciate the craft where you don't necessarily have to travel to a specific location. Like we think of a lot of museums, and if you're in that city, that's the moment to visit. But if you're passing through, now you have this space to see artists from all across California.
Absolutely, and it's a great place for families to come see, hey, what can we put in our house to really commemorate our trip to the Outlets at Tejon or California?
Tell us a little bit about some of the styles that you've seen come through just in the few months that Bird Dog Arts and its character have really come to the forefront here.
So one of my favorites I've actually purchased is a beautiful handmade ceramic ring holder. But as you walk around, you see so much art, you almost don't know which one's a favorite at this moment.
And the variety of mediums, is one thing that really captures your attention, from wearables to pieces you can post on your wall that are geographic or cultural in nature, but also a chance to interact with some of the elements. One of the things that really caught my attention is the amount of dry erase space around Bird Dog Arts.
Right, so we have a lot of families that come by, and this is one of our favorite tables. We want to encourage artists of every age. So if mom and dad are coming to look at art, hey, have the kids sit down and create their own art.
Well, as we're familiar with in the education world, dry erase spaces are also very helpful for working out problems and solutions in regards to math. And one of the things we talked about when we were in some of our other locations earlier was, the relationship between the people per vehicle, the sales per square foot, and you can actually also use that in correlation with calculating sales per vehicle even.
Absolutely.
So we were looking at some of the numbers here and taking a look at the month of June, which I would imagine is one of the busier times of year because of the amount of traveling and vacations and road trips that take place during that time. So in the month of June, there was about $1,500,000 worth of sales, right?
Correct.
And from what I understand, during hours of operation, so this doesn't include where stores or businesses are closed and people might have parked just for a little bit of a break before continuing on, but during hours of operations, you measured 52,348 vehicles that visited during the month of June during business hours.
Correct, and why that's important, the business hours, is because we don't have people shopping here the 24 hours. So we want to say, hey, if we have someone that came in who's just stopping by and we're closed, well, that's not a shopper. So we want to be true to those numbers as much as possible.
So when we have the amount of sales and the number of vehicles, we can actually figure out, on average, how much each vehicle is spending as they come through.
Absolutely.
And so how would we do that?
So it's also just a simple division.
Anytime you have that rate that involves with per, whatever your first unit is, you're going to divide that by the second unit. So when we think of per, it actually helps us out with recognizing that as a division operation. We think of per as for every or for each. And that's especially helpful when considering rates. For those of you in 6th grade and beyond, it's very helpful to remember. So when we divide 1.5 million by 52,348, that gets us to about $28.65. Now that's rounded off to the nearest cents for the sake of clarity and decision making. So tell us a little bit about what that means and how that relates to some other numbers you might see.
So we really look at this rate to see, well, what are people buying? What is a way that we can do better to maybe encourage a little bit more buying, or the better quality of buying? Are they coming to just buy a t-shirt, or are they coming to buy t-shirts for the whole family? So it really helps us navigate, hey, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong?
And that's really helpful. Something as simple as division and an understanding of rates and statistics that you're starting to explore in the classroom right now can be very helpful in a situation like this in a business operation. So, Rebecca Bland, thank you so much for your time here and having us here at the Outlets at Tejon.
Thank you for having us.